Alright, well, g'day everybody. Thanks a lot for joining me in this pre-market video. What I'm going to be speaking about are two particular stocks in our top 12 individual trade list, one of which is Boeing Airlines. The second is going to be Tesla. The reason for these two particular stocks, and the reason why I'm speaking about them, is because most recently they have hit our two targets, which we have been looking for, I guess, price action to run into since breaking out. And really, I guess the narrative of our discussion over the past 2 weeks on these stocks is how the sentence, so to speak, can change very, very quickly after the construction of one candlestick. Now, what I've really been, I guess, just to sort of break this down very simply is that, look, we've broken out, say, for instance, on Boeing Airlines. This is going to be the first stock that I reference. Anyway, so we've had two triggers on this, one at 187.79, and the secondary entry was at 192.60. We've had a target on Boeing Airlines at about, or right at 199.44. Now, we hit this about 1 week ago. It was on Tuesday's candlestick where we were left with a shooting star candle. We were, stopped out of this trade for a very nice profit. Again, 187, 192. We hit our target just shy of $200. But again, over the past, or at least in the weeks just gone in the pro analysis class, we were speaking about how one candlestick up and around this location is what we were expecting for, I guess, price action to slow down. And again, you can see on my screen right now how I have a dotted line. And the reason for these dotted lines when we go through analysis is because simply I don't feel comfortable in actually placing a legitimate trigger. The reason for this on Boeing Airlines is because we've already made, a ton of money on this to the upside. We've hit our target, and again, it's disconnecting, your own personal sort of greed from the trade and just understanding that you need to allow trades to reset. What we have essentially done on Boeing Airlines is that this candlestick that has developed on Monday is now giving us the structure, or what appears to be the beginning of what will become tradable structure for either a continuation breakout trade, okay, above more or less 205, 206, or we're going to see again the continuation of dark candlesticks, so to speak, on the horizon and continue indefinitely for some form of a pullback back down to potentially 190. Even 194, we'll see what those exponential moving averages are doing in due course. But what we have established again on Monday is what we call a bearish piercing pattern. What we did is we gapped up. Okay, we tried to push above, or at least continued the trend. We've already identified our target. We are out of the trade for a very decent profit. And you can see the sellers coming back in, and we closed more or less below halfway into Friday's bullish candlestick construction. So I guess the discussion, the dialogue we had over the weekend was to wait for this type of candlestick to appear at this general location. And look what happened on Monday. We actually saw the candle that we were talking about appear. This is a 2-day reversal candlestick pattern. Again, it is what we call a bearish piercing pattern. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that price action needs to pull back. In this particular instance, now that we are trending, now that we have broken above resistance, we can just simply move sideways while some of these oscillators reset. If you pay attention to this, the Stokes is relatively overbought. The RSI is already adjusting, and the momentum, you can see the fast line at the top here. It's starting to plateau. It looks as though it may be beginning to turn down. So again, in conjunction of the trend, everything is a-okay for Boeing Airlines. It is just moving into a resting type of pattern, and we have taken, the advantage of the breakout. Again, it's been a tremendously profitable trade. $12 with those core derivative contracts from the 187.79 breakout pivot. The ADX is sort of stretched at this particular moment. If you go back historically and just pay attention to the ADX, you can see every time we come up to about 50 to 55, generally that is the end of the trend. It is the temporary sort of, the break being pulled on the bullish breakout, and vice versa. Even if it is a bearish breakdown, it is again that temporary bullish bounce back up into or back down into those rising or falling exponential moving averages. And the same is true for Boeing Airlines. It is as if the sentence has been wrote, or at least the first sentence of this most recent story, this story being the breakout above its macro resistance area just above 185. And now we are in the waiting type of the waiting type of period until that next trade forms. So I just wanted to speak about that in Boeing Airlines because, interestingly enough, again on Monday we saw that candlestick develop, which is what we were speaking about over the weekend. And again, a very similar type of trade setup to Boeing Airlines has been Tesla most recently. We've had two breakout triggers, one at 334.82. We had a secondary entry at 346.87. We've had two targets on this. Since entering into this a couple of weeks ago, we ran up and we hit our first target at 370.30 very, very quickly. It was almost $40 of intrinsic value. This was a ridiculous trade in terms of profit on those derivative contracts. Even if you got in at 346, it still worked out to be about another $25 built into the intrinsic value of those core contracts. So, tremendously profitable. Regardless of that, as soon as we hit our target, we had another engulfing candlestick. We sort of bounced around. We moved back up. We got very close to hitting our secondary target on the 14th of June. We've moved sideways. However, on Friday last week, or as at Friday last week, and even moving into Monday's trading session yesterday, we've hit our secondary target at 385.63. Again, the story, so to speak, the story of the breakout can change very, very quickly. And on Monday, again, we're starting to see the story continue to develop and sort of lead us into what we assume to be some form of a continued sideways movement. So although we are still trending bullish, we are now out of Tesla again for some pretty healthy profits, which have been quite nice to bank, to put in our back pocket, so to speak. But the candlestick construction right now is relatively bearish. I mean, I must admit it is relatively bearish. On Monday, we have another engulfing candlestick pattern. We do have a little buying pressure coming off this lower wick over here. But again, based off how far we've moved since this breakout pivot, and again, looking at some of these oscillators just to see how overstretched we are, if I continue with the analysis into the ADX, it hasn't actually turned up. In fact, it's turning down. So again, this is telling us that the trend itself needs time to rest, and the CCI is still holding above 100. So I mean, technically, we're still trending, but as a technical swing trader, and just to sort of close out this discussion right now, this isn't the time to be looking for bullish continuation triggers on Tesla or Boeing Airlines. Those trades have run their course. You need to allow this a little bit of time to reset. And what is happening right now is that we are simply building the tradable structure that we will identify in due course as the breakout pivots moving forward, just like we did during these two resistance peaks and what we were assuming to be what we called an ascending triangle. And of course, taking advantage of the breakout which occurred at the beginning of June. The same for Boeing Airlines, the breakout which occurred at the beginning of June as well. So again, don't be looking to sort of overplay your hand. It's best to sort of sit on your hands at this particular point, or at least with these two particular stocks. The good news is that we have a lot of tremendous setups also that I am tremendously excited about. Goldman Sachs, COP, CVX are just or a couple anyway, three to name a few. We also have Baidu. I mean, I'm not going to show you this, but that Baidu trade is also developing quite nicely. As to what we were speaking about over the weekend. So, I mean, there's a lot of individual trades and opportunity developing. We are very close to actually sort of executing on some of those individual trades. But this particular video anyway, I just wanted to address Boeing Airlines because, and also, of course, Tesla, because they are most relevant and most pertinent. And again, we're seeing some of the things that we were speaking about over the weekend, what to look out for at the end of these sort of, intermediate or even molecular sort of minor level wave breakouts that we trade. As technical swing traders develop. And again, this is sort of like the end of the sentence, so to speak, the short-term sentence of the current story, which is being written on Boeing Airlines and also Tesla. So on that note, everybody, I wish you all a tremendous day of trading on Tuesday. I'll be back with you again in due course. All the best, everyone, right around the world. It's James signing off on behalf of Pivot Point Trading. Goodbye.